As the violence in Syria continues, with rebels pushing ever closer to the capital, Damascus, President Bashar al-Assad has never been under so much pressure from armed rebels at home and foreign powers abroad. Our Middle East editor Jeremy Bowen has been speaking to Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal al-Miqdad, who is convinced that Assad's regime will survive.
It sounds as if there's a war going on outside. Do you think that the regime of President Assad can survive?
Such a thing has been going on for now, 20 months. Syria has survived, and I'm sure President Assad will survive. The intensity of the attacks and the instructions for Al-Qaeda and its operatives in Syria have been consistently emphasized to create such an image that there is no safety everywhere in Syria, and that the armed groups are about to achieve their objectives. But I think it is far from that.
Britain and France have recognized the opposition now as the sole legitimate representatives of the Syrian people. Was that a blow?
I think this is a farce. This is a step in the wrong direction, because we believe that countries, particularly members of the Security Council, should not support armed groups and follow violence in foiling political systems and regimes.
I've spoken to people who've taken up arms against President Assad, and they say they did it because peaceful demonstrators were fired on by his men.
I think you should ask others also whose fathers, sons, families, children were killed also by these groups. I've been in Syria all this time, and I think the armed groups have started killing innocent people from the beginning of the demonstrations, particularly when they were killing demonstrators just to fuel the conflict and accuse the government of committing such things.
What is the solution here? Is it a deal, a political deal between the opposition and the government, or victory for one side or the other?
The solution is there. The government has, and the president have raised the possibility of organizing a Syrian dialogue among all those who have a stake in the dialogue to sit together.
Including those who take up arms?
Including all those who refuse any foreign intervention in the internal affairs of Syria or any attacks against Syria, and whose hands are not stained with Syrian blood.
They don't take you seriously, though. They don't believe those offers are genuine.
I'm not making preconditions, but I think these groups I identified will not be part. They will not accept to be part because they have, followed other methods.
Does Syria's future include President Assad?
Categorically, yes. I think President Assad and many others are citizens of Syria, and they should include everybody. There should be no exclusion.
Faisal al-Miqdad, Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister, speaking to Jeremy Bowen there. Well, new figures from the UN say the number of Syrian refugees registered in neighbouring countries in North Africa has passed 500,000 now. Comes amid increasing pressure on President Bashar al-Assad at home and abroad. Let's get more from Ammar Waqqaf, who is a member of the Syrian Social Club, a pro-government group supporting reform. I'm not sure whether you were able to hear Jeremy's interview with Faisal al-Miqdad, the Deputy Foreign Minister, but he's living in a sort of parallel universe, isn't he?
I don't think so. I think there are quite a few Syrians actually who share this point of view. In a sense, to them, the central government, the coherence of the central government is the only barrier before the country disintegrates into chaos and becomes a failed state in a sense. So everybody, whether they like President Assad or they don't like President Assad, I would say everybody, but a lot of people, they still support the government and they do not want it to collapse.
But how can a man who's presided over the deaths of tens of thousands of his own people possibly ever unify a country which is so riven?
I think we should scratch the surface a little bit here to understand how those who support President Assad look at the matter. They certainly look at the matter as President Assad standing fast, or steadfast against foreign intervention in a sense. He's becoming more of a, slowly but surely in a sense, becoming more of a Nasser of the 1956 Suez crisis, and this person is viewed by those people in a sense as the only, or as the symbol of the coherent secular Syrian state. It's not easy to understand that when people are flooded with all the contradictory news reports, but that's the people who support President Assad view this thing actually.
But how vulnerable will he be, do you think? The United States reportedly about to recognize the Syrian National Coalition. If the people of Syria see a country like the United States recognize a moderate opposition group, would that just tip them over, do you think, to think, OK, we've got people we can go with now who will actually provide that stability that you claim Bashar al-Assad does already?
I think the first thing we should understand here is that this is not a moderate group. The kind of people who Syrians see on the ground are causing all the trouble, are more of a jihadis and Salafis, and you can go back to an excellent report by your colleague Jeremy Bowen a few days ago, meeting some of those prisoners who have come from all over the world to fight against the secular state. Now, whether the United States approves that sort of group or recognizes it as a sole representative is no less different or no less important than France doing so or Britain doing so. What is important, though, is that the people of Syria recognize it as a government, and I don't see that very much happening soon. I think the opposition, or the kind of opposition, at least those who support the central government in Syria would like to engage with, is the opposition who's realistic, who knows that getting rid of the current regime is not easy at all, and that the replacement that is being suggested and supported by not the United States and Britain, but actually by the regional governments, the Islamic governments in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, is a much worse alternative. And we've seen videos, very recent.
Just very briefly, a lot of intelligence services are suggesting that President Assad will be prepared to use chemical weapons against his people. Do you believe that?
I don't believe so. I think if Syria had chemical weapons, obviously they didn't invent them or develop them in the past 2 years. If Syria does possess such weapons, it must have done so for quite a while, and this proves that the Syrian government has been a very responsible partner or a WMD possessor. I think Syria will be prepared, though, to defend itself against foreign intervention with all the might it has. And there is a clear evidence that the Syrian army is not being fully used. Actually, some estimates are about 30% of the strength of the Syrian army has only been used, and that the strategic capability is pretty much prepared for any possibility of a foreign intervention.
Okay, Ammar Waqqaf, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme.